Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be sharing all of my thoughts, first impressions and just playing about with all of the products that I picked up from the Pat McGrath Love collection. I got 2 of the eyeshadow palettes and 2 of the liquid eyeshadows. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's just say no one is more surprised than me that we're here today. That a week after I ordered my products from this Love collection, that I had them in my hands. They actually arrived 5 days after I ordered them, which is a full-on Guinness World Record for Pat McGrath. Let me tell you, that is by far the quickest I've ever received an order from Pat McGrath, and my flabber was gusted. I was fully braced for the usual 2 to 3 week wait, but I'm not going to complain. Here we are, we're ready to play. So I picked up 2 of the eyeshadow palettes, Velvet Liaison, which was of course that all matte eyeshadow palette, the first all matte palette from Pat McGrath. I also picked up Sublime Seduction, which is that super warm toned palette. Mega beautiful with some matte and shimmer shadows. I also picked up 2 of the liquid shadows, Platinum Bronze and Divine Champagne. So I'm going to try out all of these products on my 2 eyes. Wish me luck. Let's get started. Okay, so both of the eyeshadow palettes have this same external box with the ingredients and that lovely crown and heart on the front, and the internal packaging is exactly the same. It's that cardboard, but it is a sturdy cardboard with a nice big mirror inside. And this is the all matte Velvet Liaison, and this is the palette I'm going to start off with. I'm going to do one eye with Velvet Liaison and the other eye with Sublime Seduction, then we'll take that off and use the liquid eyeshadows next. So I'm going to start off with this bottom middle, the lightest of the kind of transitional mattes on my Rephr 16 brush. This is a beautiful, nice, light, like first transitional shade for my skin tone. That's exactly what I was hoping that shade would be, just a hint of like a shadow, a very nice natural kind of contour for the eye. That is absolutely perfect for me, that shade. Blending like an absolute dream. It feels very soft. When I swatched these shadows in here, they felt a little dry, as I was just, running a finger on them, but actually how it's translating on the eye, it doesn't feel or perform like a dry shadow at all. It just blended beautifully, very soft, very buildable. So next I'm going to dive into this middle, very warm tone matte on the top there, and my Rephr 15, so just like one size down to keep this kind of closer to the crease. Again, that's just blending itself, very soft, beautiful blend on these shadows. These mattes are really nice. I feel like Pat McGrath's matte formula has really improved over the last few years. It used to be, Pat McGrath was all about the shimmers, and her matte formula was a little bit behind like Natasha Denona's. And recently, in the last couple of years, her mattes have been getting better and better, and the mattes in this palette are beautiful so far. So next up, I'm going into the deepest matte. Here she is. Always tricky to see what you're doing in the mirror. And my Rephr 33. I want this to just really hug my crease and really just give me some definition without being too much. See, these deeper, richer mattes can be problematic. They can be patchy, they can be, tricky to blend, but this is just blending beautifully. This is exactly what I was hoping for from this palette. I just wanted something for every day, no makeup, natural, understated looks, but you really need with like all matte palettes, you need the formula to be there. And so far, so good. Okay, so now I'm going to use my flat 21 brush and the cream shade, and I'm just going to start tapping that onto my lid. This is exactly the perfect shade for my skin tone, for this lid shade. I really was hoping this was going to be bright enough for me, because the one in Bieber, the like flesh toned matte in Bieber, is a little too dark for me, especially in winter. It just doesn't sort of, I want this to be almost the same color as my skin tone, and it's just, the one in Bieber is a little too deep for my skin tone in winter. This one is absolutely perfect for giving me that bright lid, contrast with the browns and the crease shades is absolutely perfect. It's really opening up my eye and brightening that inner corner. I like to use a matte shade like this as an inner corner highlight rather than a shimmery shade a lot of the time. Also on the brow arch, give me a bit of a lift to my brow. This is exactly what I was hoping for from this palette. Really happy with this. These shades are so soft and silky and they blend so nicely. I'm so happy. Exactly what I was hoping for. This is definitely going to give Bieber a run for her money. It's just a little bit more concise and smaller, so look out, Bieber. She's coming for your crown. Okay, so we're moving on to Sublime Seduction now on this eye, and I'm going to start off with that middle kind of peachy shade. These shadows are definitely pigmented, but they're not giving me a lot of kick up, and they're blending so easily. You know, I picked up too much, I'm very heavy-handed, I've said this before, picked up too much shadow then, but it's just, they're blending themselves. So soft, really versatile because they're building so nicely as well. This is great. This matte on the bottom, Rephr 15, again you can see how much the brush is picking up, but there's really not like a lot of kick up and fallout, which I really appreciate. Gosh, I hope they make these permanent, especially Velvet Liaison. Like, I feel like I will get so much use out of that palette, the all matte palette, that I may need to replace it at some point. I certainly get a lot of use out of my Bieber, but that is, you know, a lot bigger, a lot more shades in there. So I don't know if I'll ever hit pan in that palette, but I might do in Velvet Liaison. And again, the deeper matte from this one and my 33. I mean, they definitely are soft, really beautiful shadows, but they're very forgiving as well. I think these palettes are going to be really beginner friendly because there's just not a lot of thought process needed. You know, they're really, the color story is very forgiving. You don't need to have, you know, a real sort of artistic flair to put color combinations together. You can really do whatever you want, and the shadows themselves are really not taking any effort or work. So I think they're going to be really great for beginners or just people who struggle with blending, struggle with color combinations. Really forgiving on more mature eyes, especially all these mattes. Okay, so I'm going to try and get all three of these shimmers on my eye just so we can see them in action. I'm going to start off with the deepest one, and this is my Sonia G Builder. That's a lovely coppery shade, but one that we've definitely seen from Pat McGrath many times before. And then the middle sort of champagne shade. That's so pretty. Wow, that's beautiful. These metallics are definitely not sort of Pat's super, you know, over the top shimmer. They are just a classic metallic, not quite as sparkly or shimmery, much less fallout than you would get in some of her special shades or her more sort of intense shimmer shadows. And then this lightest shade, this would be a great inner corner pop shade, brow highlight shade. Again, really pretty, but not crazy fallout, not super glittery. Really no fallout from this palette. Obviously you wouldn't really expect there to be a lot of fallout from, you know, an all matte palette, but there's really nothing on this side either. That's a really nice, everyday, easygoing little palette, that one. Okay, so here we have the first look with Velvet Seduction. Just a very easygoing, quick, everyday, all matte look. Really impressed with how easy that was to blend and how everything just goes together so beautifully. All the shades work so seamlessly. This side, the Sublime Seduction side, might be a little underwhelming if you're looking for like Pat McGrath shimmer, because this is definitely a smoother, more classic metallic. It's not as glittery, sparkly, over the top impact. It's definitely a kind of step down, a quieter, softer metallic, but so pretty and just perfectly wearable as well. Very easy going, very easy to work with. Perfect. Right, so let's wipe these off and have a play with these liquid shadows. Okay, so funny story, the palettes application I actually filmed yesterday. And then today I made the interesting creative decision to delete the rest of the files. And so it's now, we're now on another day refilming everything that I decided randomly to just for funsies delete yesterday. So obviously I'm a completely different person. I'm wearing different clothes, I've got different makeup on. But you know, we're gonna pretend that none of that happened and that I didn't have to cry for like 3 hours earlier. So it's all gonna be fine. But I do have mascara on and I'm gonna use the Velvet Liaison palette just to give me a bit of something in my crease before we try out these cream shadows, as if we didn't already do that yesterday. So I'm using that same lightest matte in Velvet Liaison just to give me something in the crease, which is how I typically use my single shadows, and any like liquid or cream shadows, I like to give myself something in the crease. So I've just used that shade and then I'm going to go in, I think, with a little dip of that deepest matte just to kind of, again, give me some definition to my crease. And again, these shadows are blending so beautifully. I actually used the other shadows in the palette yesterday and then also deleted that video again for funsies. But rest assured that these two shadows are also super beautiful on the eye. And in fact, should we have a little dab-a-do of them right now and just give me a little bit more going on? Because what I think is important to know about these shadows is while they look a bit sort of plummy in the pan, actually on the eye they just are really natural and great at giving you a sort of depth of tone and just cooling everything down a little. You've really got a variety of like undertones in this palette, something a bit cooler, something a bit warmer, and it really helps when you're just trying to give yourself some depth and keep your eye look from going super warm or super cool. You've got some variety, you can mix those shades together, but they really don't look like plummy on the eye. They just look super beautiful and soft. This whole video is honestly, it's been a disaster. I filmed it 3 times. We don't know what's going on, guys. We don't know. But the positive of all of this refilming for fun is that I've really got to grips with these products now because I've used them 3 times. Each of the times that I filmed this video. So what I actually tried to tell you in my video yesterday when I filmed it is that this shade, which is Platinum Bronze, is so much darker in reality than the swatches looked. It's really quite deep and almost like muddy on me, and that's not what I was going for. This was, from the swatches, I thought, going to be a sort of brown neutral shade and much lighter than this and a little warmer. And so I don't know what's happened here, but I do think it's very easy to work with. And I'm just using my Sonia G worker from the Fusion Eye series, so a special brush especially for cream and liquid eyeshadows, but I barely am doing anything. I'm literally just tapping the product. And they work beautifully. They really tap very nicely into the skin and they require very little blending or work. You just kind of use the applicator to place them And that's really all you need to do. And then it's just about sort of tapping it lightly into the skin. They have a really nice consistency where they're not super thick, but they're also not too thin. And they don't move about a lot, but they give you enough time to do the blending that you need to do, but you really don't need to do a lot. I'm just really tapping as opposed to really doing any work or like buffing or blending. I'm just pressing it into the lid, making sure there's not too much product there, and just kind of diffusing the edges slightly. I do think these two shades work really nicely together to kind of give you like a full look with some light and shade and a bit of an ombre effect. But platinum bronze was definitely not what I was going for when I ordered it, I will say that. So here we have a little close-up of these liquid shadows. I think what I'm finding about them is that they are nice liquid shadows that I found very easy to work with and didn't cause me any issues, but they're not like wowing me. I just thought these were going to give me more. You know, being Pat McGrath liquid like eyeshadows, I thought they were going to be incredibly shimmery and sparkly and impactful, and I'm just finding them a bit underwhelming, a bit sort of fine. You know? What do you guys think? Okay, so let's start off with Velvet Liaison. For me, this is like the standout from this entire collection. I just think it's special because we've never had an all matte palette from Pat McGrath before. Even like a lot of mattes in a palette has not really happened from Pat McGrath. Typically we get like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 on a special occasion. So 6 whole mattes in an entirely matte eyeshadow palette is something to behold, and something a lot of us have been really crying out for from the brand for some time. And I was excited. The basic boring neutral lover within me was super hyped about this, and the formulas in here do not disappoint. This is, I think, the best, like, consistent across a whole palette that Pat's mattes have ever been. Pat's mattes just sounds ridiculous, I'm so sorry. But this is really the best matte formula that I think I've ever experienced from Pat McGrath. I think they're really beautiful, soft, blendable and buildable shadows that I got on beautifully with. I did, as I said, a much better job yesterday of filming with this palette in combination with the liquid shadows, but let me tell you, it's been a couple of days with a lot of drama behind the scenes and a lot of footage that was lost forever, and we can only just cry and then move on, which is what I'm trying to do. But I have used this 3 times now, and I've used every shade in here, and I've not been disappointed. I think the undertones are beautiful. I think the whole palette is so cohesive and works together so beautifully, and the formula is just phenomenal, and I just love it. I know this is going to really push Bieber for like top spot and my kind of go-to everyday palette. It's going to be really, really a great companion to like my single or cream or liquid shadows, because it just has everything you could need, especially if you like all matte looks. This cream shadow really is just a perfect shade for me as well. I really am so happy with this, and I'm going to be getting a lot of use out of it. Now, Sublime Seduction, I like it. It's a nice palette. It is very cohesive for a warm eyeshadow palette. You can't go wrong really. It's not super dramatic or impactful. The shimmers are more sort of standard shimmers and metallics as opposed to like Pat's special shades with a huge amount of glitter and sparkle, but you also get very easy to work with shadows, and they really have no fallout. There's really no tricky shadows in here, very beginner friendly. I do think this is a very done color story. We all have a lot of, you know, warm toned eyeshadows, and I don't think this one is a real standout, something that you need or is going to be missing from your collection. But it is a nice palette that worked nicely and gave me a nice look. It is kind of overall a bit warmer than my personal preference. I like things a bit more neutral or just have a bit more variance, but just an all warm toned eyeshadow palette these days for me is just going to get lost in my collection. So it's a nice palette palette. It did what it said on the tin, but it didn't wow me or offer me something I don't already have. As for the liquid eyeshadows, I was obviously a little disappointed in the colour of Platinum Bronze because it just wasn't what I was expecting or wanted it to be. But that being said, Divine Champagne was exactly what I was expecting and hoping for from it. So a bit of a mixed bag between the two. Formula-wise, they are easy to work with. They blend it out nicely. They don't crease or flake or anything like that. Again, another benefit from having filmed this originally yesterday is that I did a Longwear test yesterday that I can report back on today. So, you know, all is not lost apart from my footage. Ba-dum-bum. You know, they require very little effort. They are very easy to use and quick and easy and just a little pat and, you know, they're good to go. But they're really not anything dramatic or special. You know, they very much remind me of the Lisa Eldridge liquid eyeshadows and several other brands that we've already, you know, seen. And they just are nothing extra, nothing more. And I think just from Pat McGrath, you know, with the way her shimmer shadow is what she's known for, I expected these to be like something else, like at the next level of liquid eyeshadow, over the top shimmer and shine and reflection, but they are just, to me, pretty average liquid eyeshadow. Certainly no more like amazing or stunning or metallic than any other liquid eyeshadow that I've used. So I was perhaps a little underwhelmed by these. I think they're nice, they're easy to work with, and they're a decent formula. I didn't have any issues or challenges with them, but at the same time, they were like nothing new, you know, nothing revolutionary, just a pretty average liquid eyeshadow. And I don't know what I expected, but I think I just expected a bit more wow factor from Pat McGrath. You know, for me, they were just a nice liquid eyeshadow. So there you have it. Those are all of my thoughts on everything that I picked up from Pat McGrath. Please let me know if you picked up anything from this collection. Have you received your order? Have you tried these products out? How are you getting on with them? Please let me know in the comments section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.